Hello, we are live. We are taking over the airways tonight. We're trying to fill in for Scotsman and Alan B. Pro, and we're just calling this the domestic takeover. Uh, we've got Thorzax. What are you up to, man?
Not much. Just enjoying my days and got a little chainsaw work done the other day, which was really cool. I mean, having a little bit of problem with my internet there, Jamie.
I seen that, but we'll work through it.
Yeah.
We also got Bama Dad with us tonight. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. Good to be here.
Uh, this first time I've been on live with Bama Dad, so this is exciting for me. We don't live that far apart, and we've met up a time or two live and in living color, and going to again soon, I hope.
Yeah.
And of course, we got our good buddy New York Outcast down there to keep us sane and sober. How's it going, Rob?
Doing all right. Just trying to relax after eating dinner. Knocked out a few things off my to-do list today, but unfortunately, I didn't complete it. So a little disappointed on that aspect, but spent more time than I intended helping a neighbor out. So, but in the end, that's what good neighbors do. So not a problem. That's basically it. Thanks for the invite.
Hey, man, thanks for being here. As you can see, we need the company, so we're glad you're here. Um, Hillbilly will be in shortly. Wife's bringing me a Subway, so I'll be in and out here in a few minutes. But Scotsman had one topic that he wanted us to talk about, but I'm saving that till Hillbilly gets here, and it's political. And I'm waiting on Hillbilly because I don't do political. But there's one thing I did see earlier today, and I'm gonna tell a quick joke. I hope it's quick, and I bet Bama Dad will be able to figure out where I got this joke. So these old country boys were sitting out in front of the general store on the bench. You know how they do. Bib overalls, bare feet, all that kind of stuff. And this city slicker pulls up in this big black long black Cadillac, and he says, "What are y'all doing sitting out here?" And he says, "Well, we're just sitting out here, minding our own business. What are you doing down here?" He says, "Y'all country boys, y'all just," he said, "I tell you what, you see that 60-pound watermelon right there?" He said, "Well, we see it." And he said, "Any one of y'all can eat that whole watermelon by yourself. I'll give you $5. And so this one old boy, barefooted now, he rubs his foot over the top of this watermelon. He says, "I think I can eat that watermelon. I'll be right back." So he run up to his house on the hill. Then he come back, busted that watermelon open, commenced to eating the watermelon, spitting out the seeds, sucked all that juice up out of that rind, throws it down. He says, "I did it. Now where's my $5?" So the city slicker guy, he says, "I got you $5. I didn't believe you could eat all that." He said, "But why did you go up to your house first?" He said, "Because my daddy had a watermelon that exact same size up there under his bed. And I knew if I could eat that one, I could eat this one."
Jamie, one thing I want to get out of the way, since this is Scotsman's show, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for doing that Dave, that had slipped my mind. So we got Ricky Baird out there. We'll go through the side chat later. But we've got Colt 1927 out there. Edward Petty's out there. Living in Southwest Virginia, 1965. So I'm guessing I'm 3 years older than Steve. Dale Pogue's out there. Edward Petty, I done said that. SKS Hugo, what's going on? Gunpowder Beauty was out there earlier. Crash is out there. And there's American Hillbilly. What's going on, my brother?
There he is.
Hey, fellers, how's everybody doing?
Yeah,
We're
you
doing
do it.
better now. Yeah, we'll get to the side chat later. We'll be figuring out what we're going to get y'all to type in so we can call your name out. But one of the things that Scotsman wanted us to talk about tonight, and I was there's Patriot in the Dark, Big P. I think Hillbilly, you and Outcast will be able to expand on this a whole lot more than I can. But one of the things he wanted us to talk about was our new Attorney General and whether or not she's going to be good for the Second Amendment folks like us. Y'all got any thoughts on that particular? The only video I've watched is yours, Hillbilly. So help me out here, brother.
Well, when you said me and Rob, I thought, well, he eats salad and I need to eat salad. So I thought maybe he's talking about salad or something. But oh man. And I want to say hi to everybody out there in the panel and the side chat too. I haven't had a chance. I just got logged in on YouTube there. I was running a little late, guys. Sorry. I really hope that she can be good for a Second Amendment. Her record, kind of from what I can see, is kind of about 50-50. When she was AG in Florida, she did, help put in you couldn't buy a firearm until you're 21, and also the red flag laws. But then we also seen her go and help protect some other 2A stuff that is on attack in some different states, later on too. So I'm really hoping that she can be good for the Second Amendment, and I am going to have to do a revisal video probably this week because she had a deadline. And, if you watch the video or been staying up with it, Trump had gave her, basically an executive order in 30 days to, check into the policies that Biden had put forth against the Second Amendment. She got a 2 or 3 day extension on her deadline because she didn't get done in the 30 days. And then we still didn't hear anything. And so that's why I put out that one video. And I wasn't wanting to really just bash on her, but I'm saying, I was trying to say in the video, regardless of the politician or whatever, I use the term, we need to hold their feet to the fire, not literally, but, if you run and you're tasked to do a job and this and that, let's try to, keep pressure on them that they do what they say they're going to be doing and all that. And we all know politics of everything. It don't always go that way. But a few days later, after I did my video, I think it was the next day or day after that, she did put out a deal to where if you were previously a felon, I believe is what the deal was. I don't know so I got to do some more research on that before I do my video. Then basically you lose your Second Amendment rights for your life. But from what I'm understanding on it, from a few other videos I've watched and a few things, I need to do a deeper dive in this, that now there's a possibility for you to be able to have a firearm again now. I mean, you'll have to go through a process and everything, which is fair, I guess, but you're not just totally exempt from ever owning a firearm again. So, that would be some good news towards the Second Amendment.
So what do you guys in the side chat say? Colt 1927 says a tough call at this point. And what is our thoughts on being a convicted felon and being able to get your Second Amendment rights restored? I think that's a touchy subject, but I think if you're not a violent criminal, then I don't think you should lose your. Ricky says they can now appeal the ban. That's all it is.
Okay. And I think probably the highest profile one, I believe, was Mel Gibson, where there was some domestic dispute or something or whatever. And he basically, from what I understand, got flagged to where he couldn't own firearms again. And so I know that was a little higher profile deal, but
that was with an adolescent child, wasn't it? Or with his
Mhm.
dog?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they took a lazy way out when they just said if you're a convicted felon, you can't ever own a gun. I think they need to, that's attorney's way. They just make a blanket statement instead of, defining it. If it's a nonviolent crime, like Jamie said, okay, somebody kites checks. Does that mean that they can't defend themselves?
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be some clarity there, and I don't think that there has been.
Some common sense, basically.
Yeah.
I agree with Jamie and Bamadad. I think, in some cases, 25 over the speed limit could be felony speeding. And whether people want to admit it or not, we've probably all accidentally been guilty of that in some of these, back road areas where it goes from 55 down to 30 in a flash and then pops back up or whatever, at least for a quick second. So, I mean, is that enough to lose your rights? I wouldn't think so. I think if a weapon was used in a violent crime, something like this, you've proven you're willing to do so in that manner, then that would be, stripping your rights in a sense. But I also, on the same count, kind of think that at a certain point, we really shouldn't be letting people back out to begin with.
Right.
We all know right from wrong. I mean, this is kind of put into us in elementary school in most cases. There's different levels to wrong, writing a bad check versus strong arm robbery. There's a difference, and I think once you kind of cross the line and show you have no respect for somebody else's care, especially elderly, children, this or that, we don't really have a place for you anymore, at least in my opinion. That could be considered harsh. I realize this could be a family member of mine. It's still the same feeling. I mean, if he really can't be trusted, I don't trust you behind an automobile. I don't trust you in a hardware store. I mean, I don't trust you standing by a ledge. You know what I mean? It's just that type of thing. We shouldn't have these repeat criminals on the street like that in some cases. So, but yeah, you go in, for something that's nonviolent, you're not, physically opposing yourself on somebody else. You serve your time, you learn your lesson, you should get your rights restored, in my opinion.
Well, and
Yeah.
there's the other thing too. When you start calling gross misdemeanors a felony, they carry the same weight as a felony. I think that's a little ridiculous. Here you are, you're like 18 years old, and you get in an argument with your girlfriend, and the neighbors call the cops, and the cops come, and the next thing you know, the prosecuting attorney in the county, they put a domestic violence thing on you, and that's a gross misdemeanor. And because you got in an argument when you're 18 years old with your 17-year-old girlfriend, you've lost your gun rights forever. No, I'm not.
No.
That's bull crap. Yeah. So there has
the whole
to be some more definition, not just in the way of a felony, but a gross misdemeanor is too. You know?
The whole concept of the red flag laws to me is a red flag. Sorry, but sorry for the pun there, but yeah, there's Ron 2A Matters. What's going on, my brother? Yeah, that's a good point too. I think we got to be careful about where we draw the line there. But now I think we can all agree that somebody who uses a firearm in the commission of a crime that ends in the death of a person,
that's over. That's a done deal.
Yeah, I think I think what Rob was talking about applies there too. Do you want somebody like that to ever even get out? But yeah, Vanessa throws up a good example there. Some states have 3 strikes and you're outlaws. Simple vandalism as your third would get you removed.
Yeah, and we all heard the old story, you know, what was it, like a 15-year-old boy stealing some bread to feed his family because, you know, they didn't have any, you know, work or any food and stuff. And, you know, I think a lot of that comes with, you know, common sense. And it seems like there's really not a whole lot of common sense when it comes to a lot of this stuff. It's one, you know, person that's appointed, you know, a lot of times to a position, you know, as a judge to determine, you know, what he or she considers as common sense and the penalty. And, you know, that's our judicial system, and, you know, we got to have it. But
yeah, Vanessa, stealing is a crime, but shoplifting is a far crime from armed robbery. You know, like Bama, like Hillbill was talking about. But we got to have some common sense.
Well, we have so many laws on our books that are the same way. I mean, it hasn't been long back. Everybody in our neighborhood got a thing that there was a sex offender that had moved into our neighborhood that, you know, everybody has to be notified. And I was at a local gas station where they have biscuits and coffee in the morning, and I was getting some gas and a coffee, and I was talking to the guy that owns it, lives in the neighborhood, and he said, "Did you get that letter?" I said, "Yeah, I did." I said, you know, and I made an off-cuff statement, and all of a sudden this guy in the store said, "Well, I'm that guy. Can I explain it to you?" And I'm like, you know, it catches you, you know, it stopped me in my tracks. And I said, "Well, sure, go ahead, tell me." He goes, "I was 18, she was 17. We were in the same grade in high school. Her daddy hated my guts because I was from the wealthy side of the tracks and they were from the poor side of the tracks. And here in this city, that has been a big deal for years. You know, one side of the tracks don't get along with the other side, and they don't mix. It's kind of like Hatfields and McCoys." And he said, "Well, we fell in love." He said, "And we're still married today." And he said, "I still have to do this every year." And I'm like, that's not right. That's just not right. And so, I mean, we've got these kind of things that go on in our laws, and there is this fear that we have. Okay, if you go in and you start amending our rights, it's a slippery slope. They're going to take it and they're going to ruin it. So leave it alone. But these things that they're adding to it, like the felonies, they're going to have to do the due diligence and do the work. And getting anybody in Washington to really do any work, that's a hard thing. You know, we see that when we got congressmen and senators that go in and they make an average salary of $200,000 a year, but they retire with $32 million. Where did that come from?
yeah, we don't see postal workers retiring as billionaires, do we?
No, I think if you become a senator or congressman, there should be a forensic audit of your finances when you go in and one when you come out. And if they don't jive, we need to find out why. We know why, but nobody's dealing with it. All right, I'm off. I'm out of politics.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to talk about politics anymore. But as far as Pam Bondi goes, it's too early.
It is.
Roll Tide.
It's too
There's
early.
some bad words around here, Hillbilly.
My brother to the east don't like those words.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody in the country likes those words.
Except people in Sweet Home Alabama, right?
Well, except for some. They like that other word that starts with an A.
I know.
That's
I
a
know.
dirty word.
Yeah. We could talk about that for a minute. University of Georgia and the University of Auburn is called the Deep South's oldest rivalry because we've been playing football against each other for like 130 years. But the problem is that for 50 years, Alabama and Auburn weren't allowed to play football against each other because the fans were dying. You're talking about crimes. I mean, they were actually killing each other. You mentioned the Hatfields and the McCoys earlier, and that's kind of like what it was. But yeah. And anyway, what I was saying, Vanessa Kitty paints a pretty hard picture. Shoplifting is a crime, and she said don't be a criminal, and I agree. And that those folks were arrested under the RICO law. So, it's kind of like, the embezzling money, white collar crimes, we used to call them. And yeah, but if you're using a gun to commit a crime and somebody dies because you were using a gun, that's murder. And I kind of agree with Rob there. That we're letting too many of those folks out. And a quick tidbit of information about that, and then we'll move on to a different subject or a different topic, is that I believe that the United States of America still leads the world in the per capita rate of incarcerated people of our citizens. In other words, we've got more people locked up in prison per capita than any other country in the world. And I know we lead the world in gun-related violent deaths every year.
But we do, and now we're paying South American countries to house the Trinidad Aragua, or however you pronounce it, that we're deporting. We're paying foreign countries to put people in prison that we deport.
Wow.
Yeah, on the firearms, in a sense, you got to consider, our size, population, our Second Amendment right that other countries don't have. So we have a lot more guns for things to happen with in most cases. So that's something that, keep in mind with those numbers. All right. At least I would think to keep in mind with those numbers, as well as the, the prisons, incarcerations, all that. In my opinion, the culture is kind of geared towards that. When you look back at some of the entertainment, the music, a lot of it's kind of, I don't know, guiding people in a negative way. So that's more common, I think, in the urban areas where you see it, and you get a lot more gangs. There's a lot more rivalries, all this type of stuff, really over bullshit street respect, I guess you can say. So, it's a culture problem in the urban areas, which I think helps feed the system. The system also, there's a lot of private prisons here, so it's become an actual business. And people may not know, but a lot of products are actually made through the prison system at what could be considered slave wages as well. So basically, it's, setting gullible people up to be pawns to run through the system. So, that's kind of my take on it in a sense. There's a lot of traps out there, you hope kids don't fall for them. Easy money isn't always so easy, that's kind of my take on that, where we've made it a business in this country.
Absolutely, we have. So we got Texas 6 out there. Bama Dad says that
Don't ask me what's in
local
the
Tractor
middle of that.
Supply is the Auburn College bookstore.
You gotta forgive me. This is the Macintosh keyboard. This is the whole keyboard, and this is my hand. So
Yeah.
I can't type on it very well.
Ricky Baird says per capita, we are not number one worst. I believe we're not even in the top 10. I've been hearing that forever, Ricky. I hadn't checked it out. We got 6-shooter Texan. Hey, buddy, glad you could join us. And I want to talk about this comment right here. Uncle John, registered owners aren't the problem. Number one, I got a problem that any of us gun owners are registered. I think we need to be past all that. I think, y'all know what I think about that. But you're absolutely correct, Uncle John, that people that we know are gun owners aren't the problem. The people that are law-abiding gun owners that attain their guns in legal form and fashion are not the problem. The problem is the fact that there's so many lawmakers and liberals that don't want to accept the fact that criminals are going to have guns. It don't matter how illegal you make it.
That's true.
Because by definition, they don't abide by the laws. They're criminals.
Exactly. Yeah, and in that suicide, stats, that's always thrown in there, and which covers most of the killings by a firearm. And I mean, one of these days, we're just going to face it. We have a mental health problem that they're not even really ever addressing.
No, I mean, how many cities have old mental institutes that are closed up? Now they're crack houses. They've shut them all down. The University of Alabama had one of the biggest ones in the state of Alabama on campus, and they shut it down. And for the longest time, that was one of the things the students would go over there and go through it at night. It's supposedly haunted and this, that, and the other. They finally tore it down. But we don't have a place for it for people that have mental problems.
New York State a while ago kind of shut down a lot of the institutions and centers that dealt with that. Basically, what we've come to learn from it is the state basically was able to pull more funding towards rehab.
Yeah.
So basically, all the people addicted to drugs and whatnot, stuff like that. So a lot of the people that were in these shelters, some were termed or whatnot, different programs, basically were booted out, in some cases out, written off, saying they can take care of themselves with somebody checking in. Some of the worst were sent to smaller state homes, which were cheaper to run. You need less people. It's honestly debatably worse care in some cases because of the numbers of staff that are applied, need to be there. How many are actually certified versus just people there kind of helping out. So it's a whole debacle, but basically it saves money on that end. A lot less are in, more on the streets, which is a revolving door with the hospitals and with the police, ties them up. They're, nonstop dealing with people sleeping on corners, walking around naked, all types of weird stuff, that just isn't normal. And the funding all went to rehab, which in turn basically bring a bunch of people in to get treatment. And most of these people really don't want treatment. They were forced by the state or something, a court, or family pressure, and a lot of them bail out of the program, and then they end up running around the streets, sleeping down at the river, and robbing people. So
that's true.
Basically, it's not helping the people with mental disabilities. I hate to say it without proof, but I've known somebody that ended up dead at the jail. It's all debatable investigation. Nothing ever comes out of it, but people get abused in there. It's just, sometimes their family is just as bad as could be the worst thing for them as well. They're just a paycheck to them. So it's a messed up system we got going on here. And it all stems back to money.
Yeah. We had one of the biggest ones around in my town. It was called, it started as a tuberculosis hospital, and then it turned into Northwest Georgia Regional Hospital. It was a kind of a mental type thing, mental treatment, mental illness. But Gizzard Gary gave us some information there. USA is number 5 in the world of incarcerations per 100,000 population, 541. Look at El Salvador. 1,659 people for every 1,000. That's, we ain't even close. Ricky was right, as he usually is. Y'all don't know Ricky Baird. Y'all need to get.
Look how small those countries are.
Okay, but look at this. He does it the other way too. Pure amount of people in prison. Number 1 with 1,808,000. Number 2 is China. China's got less people incarcerated, and they got like what, 2 billion people, 3 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably have to think in China, how many of them actually did anything wrong?
Yeah, so some of them might have turned into spare parts or something else happened to them too. You never know.
That's incredible, Gizzard. Thank you, man. That's good stuff. There's Artak and Daughters. What's going on, my brother?
I don't ever want us to get to this point, but I had a friend that was in Turkey, and he told me that they would go eat at a restaurant, and then to get back to I guess you'd call it an apartment where they live, there was a fence, like a chain link fence. And he said it had hands hanging on it. And I said, what's that for? He said, it's to let people know if you get caught stealing, they cut your hand off. I said, what happens if it gets you the next time? He said, well, they don't hang heads on this thing. Second time they kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Patriot in the Dark. So that's all China is actually admitting to. There's a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Probably a lot less theft in an area like that.
I agree with Rob. Rob was talking about, politicians and the lawmakers, they come up with these bills and stuff, and they base it all upon, how violent crimes are on the uprising and this, that, and the other thing. And it's all smoke and mirrors because it's all about, numbers and manipulating the statistics to bring out what their agenda is, and it's just all it's all a trick of the light, is what it is. A lot of gullible people are believing these people and passing these laws in that when you really look at what's the population of the United States now? Is it like 340 million people? 340 million people. That's we got 1 million people in prison. So I don't know. Does that seem high to me? I don't know. It's one of those things where, they go in there and they manipulate the stats, to pass laws so that they get federal money so they can hire more cops and they can grow their institution within the state, saying that there's this huge thing with crime. I think Washington State is ranking up there around second or first with the with crime on the uprise, but I can't really do anything about it. This is a blue state. I mean, actually, the whole West Coast should just be one giant country divided off the United States, as far as I'm concerned, because they're all in it together. But
same New York City.
Yeah,
Just
and
chop
so
that off New York.
I agree with Rob when you take in the amount of people, okay, that live within the population, and then what you do is you come up with statistics, okay, but you're only showing the statistics. You're not showing the population that's in that area. Of course, it's gonna seem like it's high if it's like 13 or 18% or whatever, 20%. But what they're saying in the long run is that, what is that, 1 million people, or is that 100 million people? I mean, they're not telling you that part. So there's a lot of gullible people that are believing that, crime is on the rise, when actually, when you look at it per populace, it's actually down a lot. It's not as bad out there as people seem to think. They want you to think that way. And it's all what it is ushering in a police state, taking your soldier.
Yep, get the public in fear, and they just keep allocating more money. Just keep going with it. So, unfortunately, that's how they got us with the Patriot Act, which I wish something would happen, with Trump in office now about that. But I don't, a lot of people don't think that's ever going to go away, because most things don't. But I personally don't think they should be, have the ability to spy on the American public without a warrant. I mean, if you've done something wrong, if there's something they can look at, then that's fine. But just a general search, there's obviously a lot more to the Patriot Act than that. But I think it's an invasion of our privacy. Personally, I just don't like it, and I don't think average people
that's
kids today
the way it
no
is.
idea.
And you're nailing it.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, Rob, you hit the nail on the head. What it is, they want to be in the living room and watching you. They want to tell you what you think in your own head. They want to be there to influence you in your own dwelling. It's about control. And hey, that's just my opinion. And I mean, it can really grow into, a monster, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to whip and drive it into a great big monster where they have all the control over everybody.
Yeah, it's almost, well, I guess it's a little different, but almost like militias. Most people tend to think negative when you think of militia, at least that I've bumped into. Although it should be something that should be seen as a positive thing, in my opinion. And but yet the way people look at it, they're scared to get involved. In New York State, it's illegal to be a part of a militia, which I don't understand how that's even a thing. But anyway, they deem that as the National Guard. So, but there's a difference. But basically, if there was ever to be a grassroots movement in this country, be a hell of a thing to do without the government manipulating and stomping all over as far as text messages, emails, these shows just like this, what could be seen, what's not seen, what's altered. They're everywhere. They're all in your business. Unless you go old school, they're always gonna see you coming. So it's just kind of another weapon used on the public that we're apparently okay with, and will stand in line to buy the new model of in some cases.
Labeling. Hey, Rob, I was watching a chat that you were involved with, and you went ahead and brought up the fact that, you're the salad guy. You enjoy salads, fresh vegetables, that sort of thing. And hey, I'm all for that. And then somebody said, well, nothing beats a good old Italian sub sandwich. And then you went ahead and said, did you ever think that maybe a sub sandwich is just nothing but salad with meat in it between two pieces of bread? And that's the truth. So you got to look at the whole picture. You have to look at the whole picture. You have to look at everything that's involved there. You see what I'm saying? Before you start making judgment calls and then labeling something. You know what I mean? Isn't language just something that somebody just made up one day? You know what I mean? Well, what are you going to call this? Well, it's an apple. Well, what makes it? Why should we call it an apple? Well, what are we going to call it if we don't call it an apple? Well, yeah, I guess we can call it an apple. Well, isn't it just something somebody made up? So the thing is, though, is that they expand on that thing, on our language, and they manipulate that language to emotionally, get into people's heads, and so you got to watch what you're really listening to, and that even goes for talk show. Some of these conservative talk shows, I mean, they're not out to really hear any type of solving of any problem. They just want to just pour gas on the fire and get everybody all riled up, and they don't really care if there's any conclusion to the subject they're talking about. All they're after is the ratings, So you got to be careful what you're listening to and who's telling you it, and that goes for the liberals and the conservatives for that matter. You got to be able to learn to think for yourself. Think for yourself.
For sure. Yeah, and definitely. And when you're talking about like crimes and guns, and we've seen some stats there earlier that Gary shared on the screen. I've not done a deep dive in this. It's just more or less what I've heard from other people. But you look at Switzerland, and if I'm going off what I heard, people, every person I believe goes in the military, and for a certain amount of time, and then when they get out, they keep their firearm. And I believe there's like per capita, there's like a lot of guns there, and like not much crime at all, and so there's other countries, a few other countries, there's other instances, from city to city to prove that guns might not be the problem. It's
you got a people problem,
criminals and the mental health and stuff like that. So
definitely a people problem. People, culture, whatever you want to call it, ignorance problem for sure. But this is the way of the world now, in a sense. Even through the schools, if a kid struggles, they give the kid a crutch. They just want to push them through to graduate them to get that funding. The more things they can label somebody with, the more money they get. So it's not really pushing towards the better of the individual. It's pushing towards a financial goal, and that seems to be the problem. Money kind of trumps everything, whether it's medical, schools, our politicians' opinions, which way they go. It's all kind of stems back to money.
Well, we went through the education phase, and we got all these people that have student loans. There are people that are paying it back. I understand they work and they pay it back. I know a few of them, and they have to make payments on their student loan, which is good. They're fulfilling their obligation. But even them, they said the very things that they were studying for in college don't exist anymore. And trying to find a job nowadays that fits what you actually educated yourself to go out and do is not available anymore. You know, in the long run, they just got, you know, some sort of ticket that said, "Hey, I spent 4 years in college. That's why you should hire me."
Yep.
You know, and Rob, I know you're a tradesman, and you know, you're a craftsman, and hats off. I think we need to, if we're going to put money down, we need to understand that not everybody's gifted enough to go to college. And we got people out there that are very good with their hands, and they understand mechanics, and they understand a lot of things. They have a real passion for, you know, and in making things. And I think that trade schools or apprenticeships are a very good thing that we should be looking at now, especially with the decline of China being a manufacturer. If you're going to bring those manufacturing jobs back to the United States, we need to have people that can actually do those jobs and have a skilled labor force that can do those jobs and provide those products.
Yeah, we're borderline on losing the people to teach, to take on a
A
journeyman.
lot of the trades. Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I totally agree with them there. I think, you know, I think kids should be encouraged to kind of go for both angles. And then you got to throw the third because, you know, so many parents out there think their kid's going to be the next super sports star, you know, which if you run the numbers on that just doesn't add up. I mean, it's basic math. You got to run the numbers. Doesn't mean crush their dreams or anything, but definitely have a backup plan, you know, so all it takes is one blown out knee and you're done, you know. Life happens, car accidents, skiing accidents, anything. So don't ever put all your eggs in one basket. But yeah, I'd like to see kids get encouraged to learn a trade. You just pick one, any trade, because if it doesn't make you money, it'll save you money.
Well,
And then on the other aspect, push for whatever their dream may be. You know, if it's a white collar job or whatever they're interested in. That way, you always have something to fall back to that's you can actually survive from. So you don't end up, you know, 45 as a, you know, a customer service, can I help you job for minimum wage.
yeah, and
Well,
I mean,
you also have the other part where, you know, you can be graduating from high school, you're 18 years old. You know, you can actually support yourself quite well if you're motivated enough to go out and work for it and put the sweat into it that you need to. Just get a pickup truck, a wheelbarrow, some rakes, a chainsaw, and go out and do service work. There's tons of it out there, tons of it. You know, hydroblasting somebody's shed, or, you know, cleaning off somebody's driveway with a pressure washer, or
but see, that's the problem, George.
Cleaning somebody's roof.
These younger people don't want to do any of that. I mean, they don't want to, like, they think that
they've been indoctrinated into this thing where you're not successful unless you're sitting in front of a computer in a cubicle in an office building. And
yeah, I agree. That's where I was going with this. Is it starts out, you know, with just basically, you know, the communities, even the small ones, you know, with participation trophies. Well, if you can't make the football team, that's okay. We'll go find another sport where everybody gets to play in, and you can, you know, be at that. And then, you know, the parents are, you know, going with the kids, you know, once or twice a week or whatever to the games, and the whole family, you know, they're evolved around going to, you know, some of these sports games. And I love sports, don't get me wrong. I think it's great. You know, when I was growing up, you had to keep your grades up to play sports, you know, all that stuff. But I just think a lot of our community and stuff like that, they're like, there's jobs out there that used to, like, it don't matter, construction, whatever. You know, you had, you know, 17, 18-year-olds, you know, working in the summer, was out of school, or, you know, just starting off, working their way through college maybe, or, you know, whatever the case might be. doing some of these labor jobs. And now, you have people still in their 40s, or whatever, doing labor jobs, and because there's nobody to fill that gap. And I think it's going to be a big issue. And I hate to say that. I know it don't include all young people. I hate to, put them in a blanket deal, because there's a lot of young people out there that work their butt off and everything like that. But, most of them think that they should be given some. And it goes right back to the indoctrination and stuff like that. And so I totally agree.
Well, they've been told it's this big, wonderful world and everybody's just going to be so happy. Everybody's just going to be so happy and running down the street holding hands and running off into the sunset. It's just going to be so happy and everything's just going to be so wonderful, wonderful. And that's not reality. When I got out of school, I went fishing in Alaska. And then finally, after beating myself up and that sort of thing, I started looking for a job, and I finally ended up getting hired where, in manufacturing. And I'm going to tell you what, you didn't give no journeyman no lip. He told you to go do something. You went out and you did it. This is your chance. This is your chance to have a good job with a good retirement, with benefits and the whole 9 yards. And it has longevity to it. You didn't give anybody any lip. You did your job. You didn't fold your arms and say, well, I don't have to do that because whatever. I don't have to do this because you're picking on me or whatever. You shut your mouth and you did your job. Is what you did. And we've lost that. We've lost part of that, at least.
I think this is a kind of a two-fork problem. As it kind of came up earlier, the school system, I can remember, them running you through tests in high school. What do you excel at? What should you go for a career type things? Pushing you into looking at college. And basically, I can also remember in a time frame years after high school, a lot of those jobs they were pushing, as was already mentioned, were no longer available. They've already been filled. They were in demand then, but now that you've gone through and finished, those slots have been filled and something else is in demand now. So you were kind of behind the ball. Obviously, if you have connections, you can find an in. There's always naturally going to be a few spots, but the amount of people needed was a lot less. And because there was so much more, the price they were telling you back there in high school, this is what they average make, didn't hold over to the time when they have, way more people than they need for the job. So then the companies can start, picking and choosing, making things cheaper on their end. So that's part of the problem, as far as the fact that, that lag there kind of screws with people with college and then in certain professions. And, the money isn't always, they always tell you the best case scenario. They don't mention the loans you're paying back, anything else, and, deducting all that and what you're going to end up with. They just give you the big numbers. And then, so you have a kid that's gone through, chosen a path, is told he's going to make so much, and then he gets to the real world and it's just not adding up, and they get discouraged and they still feel that they deserve what they were told. And in one way that's probably right, but you were misled. So, you got to step into what's really at the table. And the other aspect, I think, is parents, because a lot of parents, there's probably a term for it, but everybody wants to have it better for their kids than they had it. And it's gotten to the point where parents are just giving. So they grow up the whole time. They get in a jam. The parent just pays the rent. The parent pays the car insurance. You're going to school. I got to buy them a car. No, you don't. You can give them the opportunity to buy their own damn car. A lot of this type of stuff, but it's become normal now. So basically, they're not truly responsible adults, even at a young adult's age. They're just not in a lot of cases. So
they're
you're
being
kind of
taught-
setting your kid up to fail.
They're being taught not to be responsible. That it's a big, wonderful
Right.
world, and you can make all the mistakes in the world, and it's never going to affect you, and you're just going to keep going on and doing whatever makes you
don't
happy.
work out, it's everybody else's fault, not you.
Right. Mom, Dad, I don't know what I'm going to do. The rent is due. Well, what's the matter with parents turning around to the kids saying, well, you know what? I don't know what you're going to do either. You better figure something out.
Tough
Well,
love.
that's what we had to do. I had to do. Yeah, that's what I had to do. I had to figure it out.
Yeah. It's
You know,
better
make
to
some
teach
deals.
it young. Better
Yeah,
to teach
and
it
teach 'em
young
young.
than wait till they're actually on their own. You know, that's my
Yeah,
opinion.
both
But I'm called a
both
hard ass.
parents are working. Both parents are working where you have one that is paying the rent or paying the mortgage, and the other one's just making enough money for them to eat off of. And by the time both parents get home, and nobody's cooking at home anymore, they're eating fast food. Nobody has time for that anymore. And the only real family time you have is 2 or 3 hours before everybody hits the rack and the whole thing starts all over the next day. So there's a lot of pressure on families nowadays.
There is.
I understand. But
And dads
the
go,
awkwardness,
go ahead.
the
I'm sorry.
awkwardness in kids nowadays actually spins from a foundation. There is no foundation, and they go either which way or this way or that way, and there has to be some sort of foundation laid down for those kids to take on responsibility. And it's, I don't know, man. I'm an old man, and I don't have kids live with me right now. I've already raised my kids, and they've left and everything, and it's not an easy deal, man, being a parent. Anyway,
It's like
I'll shut
everybody,
up.
the keeping up with the Joneses is a thing that, and part of that is people are telling all their kids, hey, you got to go to college, you got to get a job, you got to make $100,000 a year, or you can't make it, and this, that, and the other. Well, there's truth in that, but there's also bondage in that, because half of these kids are going to go to college and they're going to get their degree. They're going to come out, they're going to get their job. That's one thing, but they're going to get that diploma. But then there's that other thing they're going to get, the bill for that. They come out of school and they're $150,000 to $200,000 in debt, and they go out and in reality they get a job and they start out at $45,000, $50,000 a year. That's the problem in this country. Nobody's really taking kids under their arms and saying, look, hey, I've seen your grades. I've signed your report cards. I know what kind of student you are. The chances of you getting through college are probably slim and none. Now, if you decide later to buckle down and you're going to do it, I'll help you. But I'll help you if I can then. But right now, you need to learn how to do something. And somebody needs to mentor them. And we quit taking kids under our wings and saying, hey, come over here and let me teach you how to run a lathe. Come over here and let me teach you how to be an electrician. You ever thought about being a plumber?
A lot of that safety stuff has stepped in the way too. Now, obviously, there's some extreme cases where yes, people are idiots, but there shouldn't be anything wrong with a 12-year-old running a lawnmower outside. I mean, there really shouldn't be, but in some cases, people freak out about that. You know what I mean? And I think we've gotten a little too damn soft. We really have.
Shoot, when I was a kid, you had your gas can hanging off a piece of coat hanger wire on the lawnmower handle, and you walked all through town knocking on doors, kind of cut your grass.
Exactly. Now CPS will be showing up at your house, probably, and the police. So
yeah, well, a kid walking down the street with a lawnmower right now is probably going to get brought back home by the police.
Yeah, I mean, I live in a rural area, and like by 10 years old, I was pushing the lawnmower, to somebody's house to mow their yard.
Yeah,
like I said, you're carrying that little jug of gas with you and all that. And I mean, you made your money. That's how you got your money. And along the way, you picked up pop bottles out of the ditch, turned them in for 10 cents each, and that's how you made your money. and as a youngin, and I agree. I think it's just people want their kids to be better, have better than what they did. But I think also nowadays and I do say this has something to do with social media, because people not wanting to be seen. Okay, we're a young married couple, and we don't want to live in a single wide, trailer house. We don't want to rent a single wide trailer house and drive a beater rig, because what if somebody sees us? We got to post on social media and all this and that. Everybody will look down on us, and which is probably true. Their peers at their age would probably look down on them. Maybe, I don't know, but I don't know about you guys, but man, that's we rented a trailer house, and when we got married, had kids and all that, drove beaters. It's just, you do what you can do to better your family, and I think that's just looked down upon so much nowadays. And I didn't know this until my kids got older and they started telling me, like, people ask people out on dates, as teenagers, and even up into the 20s. They text them and ask them out. They text them and break up with them. They don't even socially, meet face to face, and stuff. And, I'm not blaming all social media, but, it's a whole different thing than when most of us grew up, which I'm Gen X, but, it's just, I don't know if that's a problem, or not.
I think it's a problem. I think it's a major problem with America as a whole. I think, addicted to the shiny thing or the next best, or, always trading up. It's just, it's to me, I think it's worse than a drug habit. You have a $1,400 phone. In a year, you're going to want to go buy a $1,600 phone. When nothing's wrong with your $1,400 phone. I just don't understand it. You know what I mean? Same thing with a vehicle. Granted, they don't make them like they used to, so I get it. But, do you really need a new one every 3 years? Do you have to go down and sign up for another 40,000, 30,000, whatever it may, every so many years? It just seems great. Who are you trying to impress? If you got to buy your company, you probably don't need them. That's just my opinion.
You can't make payments on your student loan. You can't make payments on your student loan. But you have a $1,600.
Yeah, I think it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
Hillbilly, you're right. The foundation has crumbled away. My first home was a mobile home. You know what that mobile home did for me? Taught me to be a carpenter, because there's nothing square in a mobile home. That's just the way it is. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you what, I learned a lot from what to look for in quality and what my money was going to buy me at the end of the day. And you run into some of these 20-year-old kids, they won't move out of their mom and dad's house unless they're buying a brand new house in the neighborhood. Set up.
Yep.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, the mobile homes are cold too. It helped you to learn how to snuggle up to your wife and have some more kids too.
Well, it's like being practical is kind of looked down upon. You know what I mean? There's, a lot of cases where people, they get the big jacked up truck to go park it in the factory parking lot all day. What's the point of paying for the bigger tires, the bigger brakes, the more gas mileage? To look cool, to feel a certain way. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's definitely a thing across the culture in a sense, but it also encourages debt. Credit's a new cool thing. If you don't have credit, you're poor, so they say. Although I'm old school. I see it the other way around. I don't have to go, knock on somebody's door and ask them to borrow a cup of sugar. Just because it's a bank or a company doesn't make it any better, in my opinion. You're still going beyond your means. Save up, be your own banker. Obviously there's some bigger purchases that it's helpful for, like a home in some cases, but you can buy a home with cash. It's very rare, but it does happen.
priorities.
if you get
Priorities.
audited,
People just gotta
it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, it's about
But-
priorities. You know, if you go past a mobile home park and you're driving along, and here's this 1470 that's probably been sitting there since 1966, but then there's like a $100,000 jacked up, you know, 4-wheel drive, 4-door, you know, Super F, you know, 350 sitting out there. You think to yourself, priorities. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Priorities.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Mercedes
yeah, sure.
or
You
this or
got a
that.
truck. You got a truck that's the pride of the trailer court, buddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Pride of the
the craziest thing in the world. You drive through a trailer park and see brand new $80,000 pickup trucks and $110,000 bass boat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It just
The
makes me
living above your means
wonder
is
how
becoming-
Evidently, you guys ain't been around flipping Arkansas, because there's priorities. That's where they make the Champion bass boat, and most people in that area work for Champion. So you'll see a nice trailer house, you know, single wide or whatever. It might be just an old square body Ford or Chevy truck sitting out there, but it sure got a nice shiny Champion boat sitting there because they get discounts, and they don't live in a big house because they want to go fishing, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like what Rob was saying earlier. You know, I mean, it's these people. They get out there after college. They have all this debt and everything like that. And what they really didn't realize is that there's the bill that's attached to all that. And now they're slaves. They're in bondage to the floor, and they have to pay those payments. And
and then credit card for their new.
They're
Sorry, Adam.
getting the worst lesson in life being taught to them right now. You see, because they had to keep with the Joneses. You know, it's terrible.
Same with the credit cards. You got the credit cards. They were wrapping student loans and car payments up as a package deal for a while. So, you know, people are signing up for that because you got to have a new dependable car to get to work, you know, not to work, to school, supposedly. So basically they got all this debt, and they literally become modern slaves for all their stuff. You know,
that's the first,
and that
that's
can
the
be
first rule. When my kids went to college, I told them both. I said, if you sign up for a credit card, everything you own will be in the front yard for you to pick up.
it's, you know, my opinion, modern slavery for a lot of this stuff. I mean, it kills me when I see, you know, because it's a college town here. You'll see kids, you know, putting candy bars and stuff on credit cards and stuff, and it's just like, my God, like what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like the stupidest stuff. I don't know. And then now all the delivery services. I mean, you literally think it's okay to pay $36 for a sub?
Well, did you
And then
hear
go hit the
that
guy? I mean, are you kidding me? A damn sub?
Did you hear those delivery services now? Basically you can use it like a credit card, so you can finance your sandwiches and all that being delivered.
Of course, so they can make more money off you for your damn sandwich, for your lunch. I mean, it's gotten ridiculous, and that's seen as okay. That's modern culture. I mean, that's a big problem. Everything's about money. You know, it's foolish the way people are going with finance in a sense. What they're not teaching in school. I mean, I don't know about you guys. Nobody uses them, but we had to like balance a checkbook. You know, you had to do a budget. How would you do this? How would you do that? I've done that with my own kids, had them paying themselves to see if they could even justify getting their own apartment. Can you actually keep up with it? And then, you know, if you can, there you go. You got a lump sum of money to get your first and last month to move, all this stuff. All you got to do is continue doing what you've been doing. But, you know, nobody seems to do this. They're out there like a fish out of water, just pulling a card here, and I'll pay this back there, and a new car there, which comes with full coverage insurance. And oh my God, mom and dad, help me.
Yeah. And I can say, I'm very fortunate that I've raised 3 daughters that are married and have kids of their own and all that. But they don't have checkbooks. They don't have cash most of the time, except for I've beat it in their head, not physically, but you always keep $20 at minimum $20 cash put back, in your wallet in case you need some cash. And my oldest daughter's, so one time she stopped at a gas station. She's running low on fuel, which that's another thing I told them: don't let your car get under a half tank. But when she pulled up there, she's needing fuel to get on to work, and somebody had put one of those things in the readers, and the police were there, so they weren't taking no credit cards or bank cards, only cash only. And she said, if I wouldn't have had that $20 in my wallet, cash, I wouldn't have been able to get to work that day. I would have had to wait till they got all that done and all that. I would have been late for work, and stuff like that, or stranded. And so, it's a different society than what, was when a lot of us had grew up.
Oh yeah. Plus, without cash, you can't really tip people. You can with a card, but you can't tip the kid on the street that helped you carry groceries in or helped you unload your truck or any of this type of stuff, which, is nice to do. I had a whole little neighborhood gang over here working for me at one time. So hey, you keep them on your side, they watch your stuff. They don't harass your house. It's teaching them to work instead of steal or rob my stuff or whatever, but things like that, or as my famous statement I would say, or one I always quote or say, whatever, is at 3 a.m. when you're broke down on the side of the road, nobody wants a damn card. They want cash. That's just what it is. To get you out of a jam somewhere in some situation, cash is helpful. You try to always avoid those situations, but sometimes they can happen in life. So it's definitely a good idea to carry some cash on you. I really don't know why people don't. I mean, I'm a complete cash guy. Every time I can, I try to use it. Even restaurants I go to, they charge you less if you use cash because they don't have to add on the credit card stuff and whatnot and whatever. So I don't know. I think, cash again is more of a private way to deal with things in some senses. So, and also, what you have, like there's studies out there that people spend more when they're just using a card because they don't actually see it leaving their hand or whatever it may be. It's easier to keep track of, in my opinion. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Put $500 in your bank account and use your card, and put $500 in your wallet and see what the difference is.
See which one.
Big difference.
Yeah, lasts longer. All right, guys. I hate to interrupt the great conversation, but it's 13 after the hour. We're well over halfway through tonight's show, so we need to call out the side chat. How about we type in hashtag 2A? Can we do that? And welcome G23 to the panel.
Hey,
What's
G.
going on, guys?
How you doing, bud?
Doing good. I kept hearing, Rob whine and cry about all this crap. I'm like, I can't. There's this saying, every one of us that have insurance, I think it costs like $2 extra a month, maybe $3. It's called roadside assistance. I don't need to worry about if somebody's going to pull over. I just call the number. They come pick up my car, take it to a shop, take it to my house, wherever. I don't have to worry about it.
Okay, we're going to call out the side chat. Y'all can argue amongst yourself in just a minute. I've been waiting on this. This is going to be fun. Especially since Val and Daniel ain't here tonight. So in this corner we have, and never mind. All right, so Hillbilly Up was first. He's in the panel, and the side chat. Crash is out there. Gizzard Gary is out there. Colt 1927. Vanessa Kitty, Big Al, my brother. Edward Petty, Ron 2A Matters, Tactical Bud, Dale Pogue, Ozzy Osborne, Viejo, hey Walter, Southern Rifle, Vanessa Kitty, Lead Mining 44. Abigail says abolish the ATF. We can talk about that too. Old one guy, Fuku YT, what's up? Boom. We got Patriot in the Dark, Big P, Robert Ham is out there, and Two Live Moo. What's going on? And I think we're up to date.
Go at him.
Get him, sick him.
All right, Glock guy. Some of us men, real men, would prefer not to have to call another man to come rescue us on the side of the road. And so in a lot of cases, if we can handle it ourselves, we will. Not that there's anything wrong with having roadside assistance.
Fixing your car on the side of the road is one thing, but if you don't have the parts and you don't have all the tools right there to do it, having somebody come tow your car to the house or to a shop, if you actually have to have some specialty tools, maybe you'll realize that with your Subaru when that Forester breaks down. But don't worry about it. Unless you want to go
I don't have a Forester.
Yeah,
I tell you who you need.
Look, any man should have a toolkit in his car to be prepared for this. So
you're not going to have your specialty tools.
Belt. When your alternator belt flies off, you can actually address it without even breaking down.
Who has an alternator belt anymore? They're called serpentine belts. It's a single belt that controls every single thing. Alternator belts were like so 1975.
I got an alternator belt, Black guy.
Time out. If you're broke down on the side of the road, who you really need to call is that guy that lives in the trailer park with the $100,000 truck. He lives for that stuff. Give him a call.
Yeah.
He'll be there in 10 minutes.
That's when you get stuck in the ditch. He'll be happy to come rip your bumper off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you got to think how many people are out there riding around. That's one of the first things I always did. The serpentine belts in the back of the car, brand new one, just in case.
An extra belt.
A set of cables in a toolkit.
It's good but you still have to think about the heat and cold climate changes and everything. It's going to crack that belt. So you could think, oh, hey, I got this great brand new belt sitting back there. And when you go to use it, it's weathered and everything. And you're like, well, crap, I'm in the same position. I'm sitting here. I have nothing.
That belt gets you home. You're still in a better spot, and you can fix it at your convenience.
Oh yeah,
it's getting off the side of the road without having to call another man to come scoop.
I remember when a pair of pantyhose in the glove box was all you needed to make sure that you could get. If you had a belt that broke, you could get yourself home. But now you can't do that kind of stuff.
Or so. Well, if he's real popular, there's a pair of pantyhose in the back seat.
That's funny.
Okay. That went down fast. Jamie, you want to do the Bible verse of the night? We're going to try to drag Hillbilly out of the back seat.
Yeah, Abigail says that guy in that $100,000 truck that lives in the trailer park, is he cooking? That dude does the best barbecue and low country boils that you've ever tasted.
I don't think she's got that kind of cooking.
I promise you.
Oh.
Crash is telling it. Preach it, brother. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just, and here's another thing. Just because you see all those flashy new cars, especially the Dodge Chargers and the Challengers and stuff in the trailer parks and in the apartment complexes, don't think that everybody that has one owns it.
Oh, the majority of people probably don't own it. Yeah, a lot of those are buying them used with crazy markups. So, because really, that's it. The financing is where the companies make the money now.
Well, those people like Dodges. They're the easiest car in the world to steal.
I think drive it like you stole it.
Good night, Walter. So,
Good night,
Hi, buddy.
Crash. My mind don't even go there, brother. Crash says she ain't talking about ribs. I'm like, oh, he's cooking. Okay.
Yeah.
Dang, man. Y'all
That's-
just
That stuff that makes people in California walk around like zombies.
It's called go juice.
They don't go very fast.
I get
Oh,
my
that-
go juice out of my French press every morning. Just some good coffee is all I can handle.
A French presser. You're not a pour over guy yet?
No,
I don't have time for it.
I know.
I bought one, but gosh, that takes forever.
Well, French press it takes long enough. Go ahead, G. I'm sorry.
You guys are both doing it way too long. You just reach in there, get you a nice like scoop of ground coffee, stick it up in your lip like a chaw, and walk out the door.
Just dip it.
Similar to Ranger shots, where you get the instant coffee in a little tube. So you just put some in your mouth, throw a little bit. You can throw a sugar packet in that tube. There's enough room, and you kind of mix it around. Do a little bit in your mouth, and then take a swig off your canteen and just kind of swoosh around, and it's coffee on the go. But I think percolated's the way to go. Like you get the old school where it's bubbling up and you got the little glass thing on the top. You can see it, change the color, drop back down in, and that seems to be the best coffee in my opinion.
It gets the water hot enough. It takes all the flavor right out of the beans. It's almost like cowboy coffee where you just go ahead and boil it on a stove, get a boiling water and you take a scoop of coffee and put it in there and, add a little bit at a time because it's going to foam up. But when the foam goes back down, turn it off and let it set for a little bit and then pour that off in your coffee cup. That's the smoothest coffee that you'll ever taste.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Which reminds me, Arbuckles makes a good coffee. They were one of the coffees back on the trail, they say. They even stick a piece of candy in the coffee. Reason being is I guess they have forever, and that was encouragement to get somebody to grind the beans up. So it's kind of interesting. But if you've ever into different coffees, I recommend giving Arbuckles a try. It's good stuff.
Abigail says, does French press make you go faster and worse? All I can tell you is it helps me go. It helps me go. And Crash says, find a better way to make coffee than a French press. I dare you. You'll be catching flies with chopsticks in no time. Big Al likes cowboy coffee. Abigail says, instant coffee and sugar in a paper napkin, make a pouch, stick it in your lip. That's nasty. Yeah, DB says, French press, simple, easy, good. Yeah.
I'm a coffee nut, so when I was doing missionary work in Africa, I got spoiled on coffee. I didn't drink it until I went to Africa. Then I started drinking it. And tea also. I never was a hot tea drinker. And I kind of like it now.
I think teas are good, especially if you're sick. Like try that mint medley stuff. Oh man, that stuff will help clear your system right out. Breathing really good. I think teas are decent. If I had to choose one, I'd go with coffee because I'm American. But if nobody's looking, I'll drink a cup of tea.
Nobody's looking.
Just like the Glock that's in his gun safe.
Yeah, I told you.
When no one's looking. When no one's looking, he's stroking that, going, "Oh, you're way better than my MMP any day of the week."
No.
There you go.
Rat chair.
Timothy
Rat
Burkett
chair.
says he still uses a percolator.
Yeah.
Good coffee.
Jamie, do you mind if it's kind of a little bit of a subject change, but I think it's worthwhile to hear kind of people's opinions, and at least it's something that's in the news quite a bit, and I know it's not really political, but it kind of is. I want to say something about the boycott, or like we've done boycotts even as a 2A community, or other stuff. I mean, we've seen people not, for instance, everybody, since this is a main topic, that everybody would know about, there's people that stopped buying Bud Light, there's people that stopped watching NFL football, and so along with that, there might be a small instance somewhere, but like not very often that I know of, where people were actually maybe killed or put in danger or something. But I was going to discuss this last night on my show, and we didn't really have the time with all those giveaways and stuff. But here locally, it's, I don't know, 3 or 4 towns away, maybe, or something like that. But there's a apartment building, and it's all, I think there were 2-bedroom apartments, stuff like that, maybe 3-bedroom apartments, but I know there's 2-bedroom apartments. And from what I understand, and this was talking to somebody that was actually on the fire department, but the way the apartment complex is set up, there's parking in the front, parking in the back. I assume the way the apartments were located, they could park on each side, blah, blah, blah. But also beside the building, there was some parallel parking spots, right up next to the building, right on each side. And of course, I guess the apartment complex had vinyl siding on it and everything. Well, one of those cars that's parallel parked next to the side of the building, late, when I say late at night, probably early in the morning. It'd have been early in the morning. Somebody decided, one of those cars were a Tesla. Somebody decided to catch it on fire. It burnt down the entire apartment complex. 20-some families to this day right now, I mean, this is just a few days ago, are without homes. They've lost, all their belongings and everything. I just want to say, people, it's not right. I mean, you want to boycott a sale or not buying or something of a product, but for mercy's sake, man, don't injure or hurt people in that way. That's too far. I mean, there's little kids that, got to start to school next week, don't have any clothes, all it got burned up in that apartment building, and it wasn't like a low rent apartment building. I mean, there's people from our stand, people from all walks of life that lived there. But it all started because one person decided to set a Tesla on fire. And man, it really bugs me. Where have we gone in this dang society that it can cross somebody's mind to do something like that?
Multiple peaceful protests.
It is ridiculous, I think, and definitely careless, because, you're putting others at risk. Even if it was in an empty parking lot, one of those cars lights up, the fumes coming off those batteries, that's not good for the environment. That's not good for anybody breathing that in.
the firefighter friend of mine says there's so much toxic that's put out, and they don't have really the means to put those cars out.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a careless, reckless act. If you got a problem, use your First Amendment, don't buy one, whatever, but you shouldn't mess with other people's stuff, in my opinion, in general. I'm not for Tesla or against them. I don't think the whole EV stuff has really panned out to be what they thought it was. Intentionally, there's a lot of studies that say they're just as bad or worse. In the end, most of those chargers are hooked up to a natural gas generator anyway. So I really don't see the sale other than they're quick. But, to each their own. It's your business. I'm not going to burn down a car. I don't know what people are thinking. They claim they're great people, and then they try to justify actions like that on behalf of doing something good for other people. I don't know. It's craziness, man. That's really all it is.
People are out of touch with reality. That's the bottom line. They choose emotionally what excites them rather than really look at the big picture, what you're doing here. I seen a thing on it was just a clip, and it was a Chinese fighter jet, and it was out of control. The guy didn't eject. He was trying to correct the aircraft because it was out of control. And the next thing you know, it hit the ground and blew into a million bits and big fireball and all that. And the guy that was showing this, on YouTube, was laughing about it. Now wait a minute. Now it is the Chinese, and it is their military jet, and all that. And you can have your frame of mind the way you feel about the Chinese or their military or whatever. But we just watched a human life. Somebody died there. Maybe two people died there. Where are we drawing the line on what we think is funny? I didn't think that was funny at all. There's something screwed up with people that are laughing at people dying. Yeah, the jet crashed. Yeah, it was a Chinese jet. Yeah, it was their military jet. But you know what? People died there. Ended. Life. Gone. Insensitive to reality.
Dave, one of the things that I look at, like you're talking, there's very little regard for human life left in this world right now. And if we take it all back to, and I don't, call me a Bible thumper if you want to, but one of the things that marks the end times is that the love of many will wax cold. And
there was a couple of teenagers out on I-5 just past Seattle, just down through Tacoma. A couple of teenagers chased down this 18-wheeler truck, and they started shooting at him. And they ended up hitting the guy. He wrecked his truck. 5 other vehicles plowed into it. 4 people died. And these 2 teenagers in their cars, their little Honda cars, lowered to the ground, go zipping off into the sunset. And it was just I think it was the state patrol that finally nailed them down. But both of these kids were they were 16, 17 years old. It's not a video game. You can't just go back and push reset and then play it again. Mm-hmm. Totally disconnected from reality.
Yeah,
there was an incident here where a older gentleman in his 70s was exiting his car with his daughter, which I think was in her 30s or 40s, something along those lines. Getting out of their vehicle, there was a group of teenage girls walking down the street. The elder gentleman said hello to the girls. The girls took it as some type of provocation or something, and basically attacked the guy, beat him pretty much senseless. He was hospitalized, and the daughter, basically because the guy said hello. So, what sense does this really make? I mean, some of this stuff is just craziness. Like, it truly is. Like, that's where, in my opinion, some people just shouldn't be, they act like animals. They should be treated like animals and put down. They shouldn't be out on the street. So I know that's might be crossing the line to some people or whatever, but I think there should be something done with some of this where there's no provocation, no justification, no logical reasoning, just violence.
Yeah, that's insane.
It is.
Like I said, if you want to
Well, anyway.
boycott a Tesla or whatever, I mean, I'll probably never own an electric vehicle. I can't say I won't ever, but I'll probably never own an electric vehicle. That's just not my deal. But if you don't like it, just don't buy it or whatever. And
Yeah.
there's no sense in, stuff like that happening. And
Well, it started off, people were just, and this was 2 years ago, people were just keying every Tesla they saw in a parking lot. That was way before Elon Musk went in with Trump. And now that he's gone in with Trump, they're not only keying the Tesla cars, they're setting them on fire, they're shooting up the dealerships, they're blowing them up. These are the same people that dressed in black and were doing everything they were doing in Seattle.
Yeah.
This has got to stop. When churches are having to spend money they could be given to poor people or promoting the gospel, they're hiring security guards. What does it come to? And it's a lot worse than people really are looking at it. It's church. I know our pastor during the whole COVID thing had over 300 death threats.
wow.
And
To expand a little bit on that, because I'm from this area, the city of Seattle, after the whole thing that happened over the last election, and we had the whole thing that was going on over in Seattle, Seattle decided to go ahead and put an incentive out there to hire police officers. So they were offering $30,000 as a sign-up bonus if you go through the academy and become a police officer of the Seattle Police Department. And they didn't get very many takers.
Yeah, there's no telling what
takers. People just
things they put on.
Even people even though you would figure that there's people out there that want to enforce the law, there's people out there that one look at it and say, "Man, I don't even want anything to do with all that craziness out there."
No, if you're gonna send me in somewhere and tell me that I can't use, force in a riot situation, I don't want to be a cop.
Yeah, who doesn't want to sign up to be a fall guy?
Yeah.
Well, it's like I was saying,
I mean, don't get me wrong.
been-
There's problems both ways with that. Obviously, there is unfortunately bad apples in every profession, and unfortunately nowadays they're being highlighted in some cases. Not that I'm stating the main case you're referring to was a problem with the police officers. I'm just stating that in some cases that is a problem. But the other hand, the community doesn't support the police either. So, when they are doing right, when things are proper by the book and something bad happens, people are getting sent up the damn river. I mean, you gotta, if you're on a team, you expect the coach to have your back, if you're playing within the rules. But that's not the case with what do you call it? I can't court of opinion. As far as when media gets behind it and all this other stuff, and things get twisted into a different picture. Even though it was right, it's painted as wrong. You're getting prosecuted as wrong in some cases, and that's I wouldn't envy anybody being put in that position. It's a catch-22. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Well,
And at the
violence.
end of the day, they're all individuals, and they all want to go home at night too. They don't want to be shot at a 2 a.m. traffic stop because they had to be extra careful because of the suspect's physical characteristics. You know what I mean? One reason or another. They shouldn't necessarily come out heavy-handed that everybody's a cop killing felon runaway dog kicker either, but at the same time they got to be able to cover their ass too. So I mean there's a fine line there, and when the goalpost keeps getting moved around, that's just a bad place to be in.
Yeah, we don't need them dog kickers for sure.
Yeah.
You hear so many people say, if I get pulled over and I'm this color, I'm that color, they're automatically going to pull their gun. Well, if it's after dark, I feel sorry for a cop. He does not know what he's walking up on. I have no problem with him unlocking his holster and putting his hand on his gun as he approaches the car. But on the other hand, if I get pulled over at night, I put my hands up on the top of the steering wheel.
I turn my dome light on so they can see.
Yeah. Well, I try not to reach around inside of the car because
don't create problems.
I'm digging anything out.
There's no reason to become a statistic.
Mm-mm.
Well, one thing that you guys went ahead and brought up is that I think it was Bama Dad. The whole thing with sexual predators, and when they're released from prison, they get posted and where they live, if they live in your neighborhood or whatever, and that sort of thing. Well, that's kind of went full circle here in Washington State, and they're pursuing a law to remove that now because, there's vigilantes out there and just violent people going after these people, showing up at their home because they know where they live. And they're either beating
know what they look like. I mean, they post their face. Here in Alabama, they post their face and everything.
Yeah, and so there's been a few people killed. Now they were pedophiles that were released. But you got to also watch your legislation, because the legislators now attached to that bill want to be up to a judge for a pedophile to present his case, and whether or not he can be released from prison now and not even have to fulfill his sentence. I mean, maybe he's only been in there a year, and if the judge says, yeah, you're going to be okay, and you can let him out. So we've been calling this new law called, that it's built off of this one thing, but they've attached all this other stuff to it. And it's kind of like free the pedos law,
It hadn't been long back that you couldn't even use the word pedophile on YouTube.
I know we get those pamphlets at my place. I guess the population of the area, whatnot. So it's not uncommon to get a pamphlet once a year about somebody moving in the area. And honestly, I'm thankful I get them. Several times I've known who the person is on the card. Not like I know them, but I've seen them in the neighborhood. So it's good to know. And in one case, there was a lady going to move into a place with one of them people that live there in another apartment. And while they were looking at the place and came out, I guess the landlord left. I did inform them of who lived, in the same building, just so they knew. Because if it was me, I wouldn't want to move in with young kids to an apartment with a pedophile next door. I just wouldn't, and unfortunately that's something that happens. They're not supposed to be by schools and all this, but they're still uninformed people that end up living right next door. And the nice guy next door watch the kids for a minute. No, so or a lady in some cases. So it's more rare, but we have seen ladies on the cards too. But basically,
somebody like an innocent child I'm kind of like what Dave said earlier. I don't think that you should be back out on the street.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think so either. I would also add that, a block or two away, a house burnt down that one happened to live in. Nobody was killed, but from word on the street was the guy was up to no good and had been chased around a couple times, and they're just trying to get rid of him. So again, I'm not condoning or anything. I'm just stating what happened or what the word is on the street for state.
That used to be a lot.
All in all, if you're gonna be a pedophile and get let out, you got to understand that that's, there's gonna be people that
I got to go back to biblically. I have to go back to biblically what the Bible says about all that. The Bible says it'll be better for that person to have a stone tied around their neck and thrown into the ocean. That's the way Jesus feels about it. That's how Jesus feels about these children that get change of. And if they have to spend their life in prison thinking about what they did, well, you know what? Got a little verse here in the Bible you should read. Now, I'm not for vigilante people running around looking up all these people that have been released from prison that are, pedos, and they can't walk down the street because, this truck pulls up with a bunch of redneck guys and they get a bunch of baseball bats and beat them into the sidewalk. I'm not for that. Not for that at all. I don't condone that at all. Violence is violence. But you have to look at both sides of it.
That's a fact. I think we need to say hello to the Scotsman after all this is his.
Hello, Scotsman.
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
What's up, slacker? Where you been?
I was busy, my friend. I was busy.
Oh yeah, you gonna share her name with us?
We'll see. Maybe down the road.
Are you sure it was her?
You probably don't even remember her name.
Well, all right. Calm down, fellas. I wasn't drinking. I had to drive, so none of that was going on.
Are you wearing a kilt?
I perfectly remember her name. We've been talking quite a lot, so.
Okay. All right. I figured if you threw that kilt on it, it's who knows, because they're coming out of the woodwork.
It's a little chilly for the kilt right now.
Guys, we need to keep it. We need to keep it clean because she might be there at the house with the Scotsman as
No,
we
she's
speak.
not.
Okay.
What do you mean it's too cold? It was 70 degrees here today.
Yeah, okay. It's not 70 degrees here.
You're either. Stop bragging, Glock guy.
It's 68 in Georgia, and we're expecting rain in about 2.5 hours. So there's that.
It's raining here. It's been raining for the last probably hour and a half.
Yeah, it was like 20, 22 when I woke up this morning, and I think the high today was like 41. So not very nice. Not unbearable, but definitely not comfortable.
So, Scotsman, how much of this have you been able to see? I think
I got home about 10 minutes ago, man.
I think it's been fun tonight. I think it got me out of my comfort zone. Thank goodness Hillbilly came on here and talked about what's her name? Pam Bondi.
Pam Blondie.
Have you seen that picture of her in the bikini?
No,
Oh,
I had not.
I think she's holding a beer up. Mr. Guns and Gears got it on his channel. That is that can't be her.
Craig says no, but I'm about to.
It's probably a recycled image of Nancy Pelosi in a bikini on the beach. That now they're saying is Pam.
I
Please,
see
no.
that one, and I doubt that was actually Nancy either.
So this is the thing. Red flag laws need to go away. I mean, I hate to say that as a blanket statement. I would hate for a lady to get hurt or shot or whatever because her husband's a jackleg or whatever. I mean,
Yeah, but that in that particular instance, the lady could file, with the local police department. But when it goes to neighbors deciding, or somebody that just don't
Worker, anything like that. Yeah.
don't like you, that's a whole different story.
Well, it comes down to the whole lack of due process. Due process goes out the window.
right,
Mhm.
exactly. And we have a ladies shelter here just for those kind of situations where a lady that's in danger like that could take her kids and stay there until she gets on her feet and gets her another place and all that. So
that lady's also got a legal right to self-defense. So I mean, that's another option if something is that extreme in a sense to where things got to be dealt with in a more serious manner. I mean, that is a thing, or could be a thing.
yeah, well, I don't want that either.
No, I don't think anybody wants it, but I would rather. I don't know. I think it's we all have the natural right to protect ourselves. You know what I mean? In a sense, the lucky ones we were able to do that with firearms in some cases. So, not that would ever be the thing. That's not what I'm focusing at. But I would rather see her defend herself than get beat to death. Personally.
Exactly. Right. However means she needs to do it.
Right. Maybe she runs him over with the car. I don't know. Hey, whatever. Keep guns out of it if you want. But either way, and that would go across the board with anybody. I mean, it could be a elder person with an abusive caretaker. There's a lot of weirdos out there, but we all have the right to defend ourselves. So hopefully, truthfully, I'd like to see more battered women fight back, use their rights. It would solve a lot of problems. We'd have we'd have a lot less assholes out there. Put it that way.
Right. They know there's some validity to a Louisville Slugger, and it's hard to beat a good piece of hickory. So,
yeah, and families should look out for this too, because that's one thing I've noticed that a lot of people look the other way. It's not my business. It's not my place. In a lot of cases, that could be true. But when it's your family, when it's your sister, when it's your daughter, how the hell do you not say something? What type of man are you? I'm sorry, but what type of man are you? I mean, there's little kids that'll fight for their mom, and you're their brother, you're their father, the uncle, and you're just going to look the other way. That's shameful, man.
yeah, not around here. Robert Ham, I like it. Only thing a red flag is good for is indicating hot range. That, and when you're shooting at distance to let you know which way the wind's blowing and how hard, right?
Basically, you don't want to remove guns from the house. You just want them in the proper hands.
Well, just think if the red flag would be subject to anything. So, your neighbor, you don't like them because they mow their yard on a Sunday morning, or whatever the case might be. You can just call the law on them. and law goes over there and, something's taken away from them, just because you don't like them. And, you have to think of it, in other ways too, not only towards firearms. And I mean, seen a video just this week where somebody's talking about their good friend said that their neighbor had moved into their neighborhood. As during a holiday weekend, they were basically barbecuing and all that in the backyard, and they called he called the fire department and said, "Oh, there's a fire at my neighbor's house." Fire department showed up and they're like, "No, we're not. We don't have a fire. We're barbecuing." They had to go check it out. Well, then later on that day, while they were continuing with a family type deal, called in a noise complaint to the police, and it's just because the neighbor did not like those people. And then I guess a few weeks later, that person was home and seen those neighbors gone to work and are gone, and somebody was robbing their house, and he said he didn't call the law. He just let them rob their house, and right or not, but that's just kind of the way the red flag law works. If you don't like somebody, you could call and a complaint on them and say, I seen them, walk outside with a rifle or whatever, and they pointed it at me, or, whatever the case might be, and which might not be true or not, and so it's a very scary situation with those red flag laws.
There you go. All right, we're up on the top of the hour. Scotsman, you think we should start going through the room? You want to hang over a little while?
It's up to you, brother. It's your show.
No, man, this is yours. We took over.
No, you took over. It's your show. You're in the reins, brother, not me.
Well, you got anything?
Got some words of wisdom for us, Scotsman.
Get there and lay down.
Words of wisdom. Oh, let's see. Make sure you always stay armed, folks. Stay armed, stay safe, stay vigilant. Never give up.
Yeah, no matter what happens, you got to keep on keeping on. That's easier said than done sometimes. But yeah, we'll start going through the room then. G23, you want to go first?
Sure. Well, thanks again for the invite. I should have some videos coming out. I do more stuff over on Rumble these days. I've actually done a couple live streams over there because you can hold firearms, you can shoot firearms at the range. Got a lot more freedom. So that's where I've been doing a lot more. But I'll probably post a couple videos here in the next week or two. So thanks again for the invite, and it was fun.
Thanks for being here, man. Dave, what are you up to this week, brother?
Now Dave don't want to talk.
Oh, you were talking to me. Oh, okay. Nothing much. I got a physical therapy appointment this week coming up. Going to go to that. Like you said, just keep on keeping on. Just enjoying retirement, and that really doesn't have much else to really expand on here, because every day is Saturday for me. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Outcast, and we'll see what he has to say.
All right. Well, I guess start out by saying thanks for the invite. I didn't really realize it was a fill-in show or whatever, but it was still a good time. Hopefully we didn't get too down with our topics in some points, but all in all, I had a decent time, and was glad everybody showed up, even the Glock guy here sneaking in at the end. Tell everybody to eat a salad for your health, plus, flavor, and, keep your head up. So a lot of things all fall back to perspective. Mental health's important. Don't let things hold you down. But other than that, have a great evening. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for being here, brother. Mama, Dad, what you doing this week?
Doing some casting, some reloading. That's about it.
Any
Other than-
particular cartridge and caliber?
I'm gonna do a bunch of 9mm. I got some. Walter sent me a few. I've been wanting a Seiko mold for a while, so he sent me some that he had done in a Seiko mold. See how I liked them. So I'm gonna load up a bunch of those and go shoot them, see how they do.
That's
Other than that, not a lot. I've got a bunch of 223 to reload, but I'm not as proficient with bottleneck. So I got to do that. I got to spend some time with that. Oh boy, those are ready for the tumbler.
They are. They're nasty. They ain't even been deprimed yet. So anyway, man, enjoy that. That's going to be a fun time. Okay. Hillbilly Up, what you got coming up this week?
I got a few videos coming out this week. Hopefully, I mean, it's been, the weather's just been so dang windy here. It's been really, really kind of upsetting that, it's so windy that when you go out and try to film, even with a dead cat on the mic, it's still so much wind noise. So, but yeah, I'll definitely have some videos come out this week, even if it's inside here. But yeah, we got Guns, Beer, and Therapy every Saturday night, 9:00 Central, 10:00 Eastern. If you ain't doing nothing, come over and visit us. We always try to have a good time. And thanks for having me here. Appreciate it. And awesome side chatting panel, guys. Thank you. Glad to be a part of it.
Thank you for bailing us out, brother. Thanks for your help. Robert Ham, I'll welcome you and say go Dogs. Amen. All right,
Well,
guys,
Jamie, do you want me to take us out?
let's see what Scotsman's got to say.
Okay.
I appreciate you guys taking over the show. And sounds like y'all had a good chat. Saw a lot of good comments out in the side chat. So appreciate all you folks out there as always. And this week, I do actually have a couple videos coming up. I know you all love my light reviews. So I got another light to review. And this one was purchased with my own money. And this was one that was recommended in that video by a comment from someone who was watching. So, I'll give them a shout out and let them know. But yeah, I'm going to do that review. I will say so far right off the rip, out of the box, I am much more impressed with this one than the one that was sent to me. So you got that. And then I picked up something else as well. And we'll get a review out on that too. But that's going to be pretty much it for me this week. Probably, hopefully try and get some reloading done. But Jamie, what you got going on, man?
I've got a video that I'm almost done editing. I hope to get it up tomorrow. Wanted it done this weekend. And you can check us all out on Friday nights at 8:00 on Georgia Shooting Connection channel. Robert Ham said he subbed. I hope he subbed to Georgia Shooting Connection. And with that, if you're ready, Dave, we'll let you take us out right.
Okay. So, first of all, I want to extend a very special thanks to the Scotsman for letting us allow have time and fellowship and discuss some very touchy subjects, some things that we need to kind of think about and mend over in our minds. And like Hillbilly says, maybe going out of your way really isn't going out of your way if you make somebody have a better day, you know? So take the time to try to care about the people next to you. And with that, I'm going to tell you one thing. Keep those magazines loaded and one in the chamber. Woo!